Hypothetically, scale of 1 to 10, how difficult would it be for someone to disappear? Family of 4?
Lost out, beat up, dancing, found it. I found you somewhere bound down there, right there. You too wild, you too wild.
Look around.
Too wild.
This place is death.
You too wild, you too wild, you too wild, you too wild. We surrounded by the fucking wolves.
Congratulations on your first Emmy nomination.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's pretty fantastic. It's a wild category, and it's pretty exciting. The show itself actually just did pretty well.
Yeah, it was phenomenal, and it's strange doing a first season. You never know what to expect. I mean, I thought we were making something that was kind of special, but you're working in a box. You don't know what's happening outside of that box, and it was nice to see that people really responded and loved the show. I hear from people all the time about the show, and they keep bothering me about season 2 and wondering when it's going to come out. So it's been fun.
Yeah, I'll definitely ask a little bit about that later. And I know the season 2 trailer dropped, or they just had something come out. So yeah, there'll be a little bit to talk about there. I'd love to hear just a little bit about your history. What got you to cinematography? And I know you were at NYU for a little while with some pretty great folks, including yourself. So I'd love to just hear a little bit about what got you to here.
I started as a still photographer. I mean, as a kid, I sort of, found my dad's, rusting old Pentax camera, and it was the days of film, and I started shooting, still photographs of my friends, and just sort of, looking at what was around me through a lens, and that just became more and more interesting to me. And I got really lucky. I grew up in Northern California, and the only opportunity for a film job around was Lucasfilm. So I got an internship at Lucasfilm, and they quickly offered me a job, and I dropped out of school, and I was in college. It was a college internship, and I dropped out of college and started working at Lucasfilm at Industrial Light and Magic, the special effects division, and it was in the days of the transition from film to digital, and it was a really interesting time, and my eyes were wide open, and I learned a lot, and it was the first opportunity for me to see how a set worked. I grew up in a small town with no television and saw weird indie art house movies, and that was as much as I knew about filmmaking. Was like the Seven Samurai and some obscure sort of indie films and some Stanley Kubrick movies. That was sort of the breadth of my film knowledge as a kid. So
yeah. I'm curious. Where? Sorry to interrupt. Where in Northern California did you grow up?
I grew up in a small town called Inverness. Near the Point Reyes National Seashore. So
I live in Sonoma County. So.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
I'm actually in Berkeley right now visiting my uncle. And,
oh wow.
Yeah, my parents still live in Inverness, and I was just out there. So yeah, well, you're not far away, man. Cool.
Oh no, not at all. I lived in Berkeley for a little while too.
Nice.
I had a feeling. I was just listening, going, okay, all right, ILM. I worked at THX for a very short time, so I don't know. I don't think you can.
Oh, cool.
I don't think you can be in Sonoma County or Marin County and have even the slightest interest in film and not have some type of relationship with Lucasfilm.
Yeah, exactly. It's the only game in town, man.
Yeah, that's wild.
And it's a good one. One. I mean,
yeah.
It was rad. I mean, it was. I had so much fun there, Like I said, it was the transition from film to digital. And my boss there was super cool, and he knew that I wasn't getting paid enough. So he sort of opened up the whole department to me. It was, opened up the whole still photography department, and I could do whatever I wanted. I would work an 8-hour shift or a 10-hour shift, and then I would stay in the darkroom for another 4 hours printing. And, I had access to film negatives and slide film, and I really just spent a lot of time experimenting with different film stocks. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's actually where a lot of the looks that I like to use come from, is sort of those days of experimentation and non-traditional development and printing techniques. And now, of course, almost everything is digital, but all of those ideas were sort of formed early in a darkroom, and it's things I still use today. So at some point, I saw the writing on the wall at Lucasfilm that my job would become 100% digital and sitting behind a desk. And they even, it was a great place to work. They even offered, training courses on you could stay after hours and take a training course on how to do 3D animation. They were sort of trying to transition everyone from an analog world to a digital world. And I just sort of saw that my career would be sitting behind a desk at a computer, and as creative as it might be, it would be behind a desk sitting at a computer. And I had seen a little glimpse of what set life was, and I wanted more. So I went to NYU as a transfer student, and I was in class with some fantastic people, people that have been gotten a lot of recognition in the last couple of years, Rachel Morrison being one of them, and Reed Morano being the other one. Mm-hmm. I think we were the three kids in school that really wanted to be cinematographers, and it's pretty cool that we've all taken our own trajectory, but we've all had a fun and sort of great career at it.
Yeah, definitely. It's fantastic. What did you get from NYU that kind of catapulted you, from ILM to where you are?
I mean, NYU was a great opportunity to work with other people, to meet people, to meet other artists, and really, another level of experimentation. And I knew when I got there that I wanted to be a cinematographer, which was kind of a different story than the majority of people that went there who wanted to be directors. So, Reed Morano, Rachel Morrison, and myself, we were the only three people that wanted to be DPs. So we were sought after, and we shot a lot of films. I mean, I shot in the 2 years I went there as a transfer student, I shot like 60 short films. and that was just an opportunity to make a lot of mistakes, to make some very good friends and make a lot of mistakes. And I feel like that was really the most helpful thing in my whole career, is just to, spend that time really figuring out how to tell a story and how did I like to tell a story, what felt important to me, and to meet a lot of people that I ended up, in one way or another with, collaborating with for years after NYU. And, so that was sort of the thing that helped me transition, and also just gaining that level of experience in a very short time, I think really set me up in a good way to be ready to shoot a movie.
Yeah. What was most of that experience the first, shooting film or digital?
We were still shooting film. When I was at NYU, when I was at NYU, there was no digital cameras. And I'm not somebody who's a naysayer of digital, but I think that there's a very important lesson that you learn when you shoot film, which is the idea of really thinking through what's going on in front of the camera, rather than pointing the camera and hoping that something cool happens in front of it, that magic is just going to just create itself. Shooting on film, learning how to shoot on film really teaches you that you have to set up that magic. You have to get all of these wheels turning in sort of the right way, and then you roll the camera, and then the magic happens, and there's always the unexpected. There's always the happy accidents, but those are few and far between, and you can't just rely on those. You have to be sort of setting yourself up for success in every scene, in every shot, and in every film. You got to sort of, line the stars up, and then hope they continue to line once you roll the camera.
I wonder if sometimes that's like a generational thing where, everybody can have their camera out waiting for something to happen rather than, making something happen.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting discussion because there's certainly a lot of young people that are super talented. I mean, the next generation of cinematographers are stiff competition. They're really good at what they do. Mm-hmm. And I think as long as, listen, I always want the conversation to be about what's happening in front of the camera, and I don't think there's anything much interesting happening inside of the camera. If you want to talk about pixels, pixel count, and the degree of sharpness of the lens, to me that's the least interesting conversation, and the conversation should always be about the story. And if you're having a conversation about anything but the story, you're wasting everyone's time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's a great avenue to kind of go right into Ozark, because for me, it's a show that has an aesthetic to it that is so crucial to the story. The look kind of runs this like icy cold blue. Even the costumes are like blues, grays, and blacks, and neutrals, and it's all to service the story. How collaborative is that for you as a cinematographer, working with the rest of the people to tell that same story?
Yeah, I think it's really important. Stephanie, our costume designer, and Derek, who's also nominated for an Emmy this year, our production designer. Mm-hmm. Are fantastic. I mean, and we have a very close working relationship. It's very open. Like, their doors are always open, and it's very much like a melding of minds and a conversation. And it's very easy in the way that it should be. There's no, we're all sort of on the same page and gearing towards the same aesthetic. And I think, Derek, when he saw how dark I wanted to shoot the show and how distressed I was always telling him, like, age stuff more, darker, meaner, crueler, and he sort of just jumped on that and did stuff that I just never expected, walking into sets and just being like, wow, how did you make this out of nothing? People would just be amazed at, some of the locations that were transitioned from, actually a nice room into something that fits in the world of the Ozarks, So it's a real collaboration. And I would say, like, really, the initial collaboration was between, Jason and I really just wanted to create this unfriendly, hostile environment that just felt dangerous, and a level of dark to where the actors didn't stand out from the environment, that they were sort of part of the environment, and they could just disintegrate into the lake at any moment, that they could, disappear beneath the surface of the lake, or just fold into the shadows of the forest at any moment. And I think that was something that, Jason and I just got really excited about, and him and I are really on the same page aesthetically. We really vibe on the same things and get excited by the same things. I mean, we're real, like, film nerds, and are always talking about movies we've seen and what about this, and to me, it's really about putting a lot of love into each camera move, into each lighting setup, into everything, to just really keep the audience so engaged that they're not only, like, on the seat of their pants, but, like, hoping that they could crawl through the screen and see what's on the other side. Like, that's how engaged we want the audience to be. And I think we're, sometimes we're successful and sometimes we're less successful, and pay attention and learn from our mistakes and really like hone in on the things that work.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's funny that you mentioned the lake, because for me, water is one of the main characters of the show. It is so crucial. What's your relationship in working with the water on the show? Is it something that you're into, or we're just kind of like hesitant?
Well, working on the water is really painfully slow. It's really difficult to get things done. But growing up in and around a lot of nature, it's been a lot of fun to sort of let that become part of my work. Up to this point, most of my films and TV shows have taken place in an urban environment, and this has really been an opportunity to explore, sort of nature and the nature of my childhood, and have fun with that. So I've really like dug in, and I think Jason and I are both really interested in like what's the dirt beneath your fingernails, what's that weird creepy tree in the background, what's that thing that feels like it's going to sort of suck the actors into the environment, and I think it's been a lot of fun for us. Shooting on water is tough. It's trying anything that you want to do is going to take 10 times as long. If you want to move the camera, that's going to take 10 times as long as it normally would and be 10 times as painful. But, the sort of rewards, I think that the rewards are all on screen, the rewards of that, and just sort of embracing how difficult it is and embracing what Mother Nature gives you, rather than trying to fight against it. We'll just turn that shot into if there's something that's not working, well, then we'll just turn that shot into a silhouette. If we're having trouble getting the camera to where we wanted to, you just sort of adapt and use the sort of gifts that Mother Nature gives. And and if you stay open, then things get really interesting,
Yeah, I think in that moment that provides a really good collaboration between you and the editor, possibly even more than the director. There's elements of your episodes where I glom onto the symbiosis between the cinematography and the editing to propel and to tell a story. It's pretty fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's an interesting relationship because you're sort of giving them a bunch of little magical gems and hoping that they're mining the footage for those gems and seeing what you're seeing. And, we don't communicate a whole lot. I occasionally will send an email or, a text to the editor with a small note or something, but you're just kind of hoping that they're on the same page. And that's the beauty of it is, Vix, who edited a bunch of the episodes, and is a fantastic editor, and the other editor, I think, is Cindy. I don't want to misspeak. Hopefully you can fact check any of this.
Sure.
Those are sort of the two editors that have been really magical and really been a key part of it. It's interesting to have this sort of collaborative experience with somebody that you don't sit in the same room with. But you're just hoping that they're finding the same beauty in the things that you think are beautiful. They're finding the same magic in the things that you think are beautiful. Those are the people you're looking for, and I think we got really lucky on Ozark with that.
Yeah, I think so. I would absolutely have to agree with that. I'm curious who some of your personal favorite cinematographers have been that you've either been inspired by or that you just really love.
That's a long list, man. Wow. Wow. Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm going to try to keep this simple.
All right.
I try to not overwhelm you. Okay, so Emmanuel Lubezki, I think is sort of one of the people that I think moves the camera and uses the camera in the most naturalistic way that I've seen of any sort of modern cinematographer. And I think, I think all the cinematographers around him have learned really valuable lessons from his ability to respond to the actors. And, I only hope to hope to be as great as him at, sort of responding to what's happening in front of the camera in real time in the way that he does. And I think that, Ozark is a very different show stylistically from what he's doing. But I think that's the key, is that I'm always watching the rehearsal and the blocking and the performance and thinking about the camera relative to that action. And I think that that's the most important thing. I think lighting is secondary. I think all of the sort of, more flashy elements are all secondary. Anything that's slick or cool is not interesting. But really the most important thing is the relationship between the camera and the actor. And I think Lubeski is the master of that. Roger Deakins, of course, is probably the best lighting cameraman I've ever seen. His work is magical. Gordon Willis, I think, really taught me a lot about lighting and about how to make every location have its own vibe. I mean, he really knows how to keep a consistent vibe through and a through line in a story, but each location just has its own beating heart, and that's something that you can't. That's something you can't make up. It's a lot of planning and a lot of heart, and it takes a lot of guts to go into a location and turn off all the lights, and just leave on one practical and not see the actor for half of the shot. It takes a lot of guts, and it really, as long as you're telling the story and that's what you see when you close your eyes, then you got to follow that vision. And Gordon Willis was the master of that. And of course, modern cinematographers, Maddie Lee Batik, Reed Morano, Rachel Morrison.
Yeah.
I love them all.
That was a wonderful answer. I love that. A lot of cinematographers have moved into directing. Is that something that you're interested in?
I mean, I'm always interested in a challenge. Directing doesn't have to be that challenge. I love what I do, and I think I have the best job on set. I really think that I'm really blessed to have the career that I have and to have the opportunity to use my skills to be able to tell a story. I feel really lucky to, I feel like every day on set is a gift, and I don't take that lightly. So I have a lot of fun at work, in every setup, in every scene, in every shot, in every episode. I'm just trying to stay engaged and do the best storytelling I can, and so I'm never bored.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy where I am.
That's fantastic. So we talked a little just for a moment about season 2 of Ozark. And that comes out August 31st. First season is streaming now,
yeah,
and the
August.
second season is August 31st. So just a month from today, from this call. What can we look forward to in season 2 that you're allowed to say?
Well, I think the reason that the show was really successful for season 1 is that it's really about this family, and it's telling the story of this family and the family dynamic, and the peripheral relationships are just as important too, but they're real relationships that are forged on trust or lack of trust, and the need for other people and the need for connection to survive. And I think that, in season 2, everything gets ratcheted up a notch, and the family dynamic gets extreme on every level, and it's a lot of fun to watch. But I think that the show is really interesting because of those dynamics, and to watch those dynamics shift and turn and twist in ways that you're not expecting is what people have to look forward to. It's a ride, man. It's sort of, they didn't pull any punches for season 2. It starts off with a bang, and it just kind of keeps going. There's no slowdown at any point. And I think people are going to be really excited about it.
Well, there you go, folks. August 31st. Ben, thank you so much for chatting with me today, and I'm wishing you the very, very best of luck at the Emmys in September.
Fantastic, man. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
You too. Take it easy.